welcome. This is our office hours period. My name is Richard Carlton, and I wanted to give you a quick update on what we got going here and briefly discuss with you that this meeting is being driven by Citrix. But if you have questions about your dial-up meeting today and you're not getting a good, nice, clean broadcast, you can let us know, but more likely you need to ask Citrix about the software. 888-259-8414 is the number for Citrix. And then additionally, we have, if you have questions, you definitely put them in the question pane, although I've got a ton of questions. So really what I'd be looking for is follow-up questions. And a lot of the people who ask questions are here today. And so what I want to point out is that a couple of you have reached out to you directly. I guess Bridget, if I pronounce that correctly, she wrote me, a couple of you wrote me, I don't want to say a book, but it's like a full page of text with diagrams and stuff. And it's more than what we can do. The rule of thumb is I want to be able to answer your question in 5 or 10 minutes, and some of you need like an hour worth of digging through and going through. So I'm going to meet a couple of you offline just to make sure your questions get answered. Bridget was one of them. I've got several computers here I'm looking at, including the notes that we've collected on the webinar. Of course, someone just sent me webinar questions from 15 minutes ago. I can't even begin to read that at this point. You have to give me more advance notice than 15 minutes, guys. I've been getting questions the last couple days, and so what I want to do is a couple housekeeping notes up front here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. So learningfilemaker.com, most of you have this course, have the training courses. If you don't, then think about going and finding an individual video training course or getting the complete bundle. So what are our products? Pretty much, well, and this gets into something interesting. I'm gonna, since this is such a small group here, we have like about 20 people here. I want to ask for some feedback if you're interested in this. So first off, learningfilemaker.com is our website for the training component. RC Consulting is our consulting side of the business. We have our Pro 15 course here. We also have a bundle, which isn't on here. If you buy the bundle, you get all the training and a full copy of Pro for a year, right? And it stays up to date for a year. We keep everything, it's like a maintenance subscription. Side note, if you've been watching anything about the FileMaker Cloud and the videos there, FM starting point 468 is available. And we actually also have a list of the code changes that we made to that. And those code changes are on FM forums, I think on FM FileMaker community. I'm not sure, I'll have to check, see if they're at, but we have those code changes so we know exactly what was changed if you're interested to know between 466 and 468. And specifically PSOS, which is the perform script on server command, where the server runs the script, wouldn't work correctly with FileMaker Cloud because of some minor edits, minor errors. So anyway, so we got that. Recent videos. This video is from this week. And so Margaret, my ACE production assistant, is going to put these into the general text chat. So copy and paste those in there for everyone, Margaret, would be great, so they don't have to type them. This recording will be made available to people who either have our current product, either the Pro 15 course or the bundle. The webinar, the middle one here, the FM Cloud one, is a really good one. It's 75 minutes. It's been highly edited and animated. It's good stuff. And it talks about FileMaker Cloud, some of the under the hood stuff. Now, nothing in these videos on YouTube is not already contained in our Pro 15 course. Our Pro 15 course takes the YouTube videos and we expand upon them. So when you pay for stuff, you get more content. And then there's a video on understanding Amazon's total cost. So here's the deal. So we're going to get this rolling. I wanted to show you, this is the Pro 15 course. I have some people who ask questions, and the answers are already contained in here. And you can do a search in here. For example, you could say FileMaker Cloud by typing FMC and pressing the return key. You need to press the return key up here after you type in your search. It finds all the matching videos. So in here is a complete set of videos that are all about FileMaker Cloud. So a handful of these are free, but the entire set is a paid course. Now, getting into good stuff here, quick overview, 5 seconds. So this is the product line as it currently exists. And the one new thing there, of course, is FileMaker Cloud on the end. If you're not familiar with that, this webinar is not really, it's a Q&A session. So there's videos about that. I will direct you to those videos. This is like the latest, greatest news coming from the front. So if you want like your secret briefing, presidential intel briefing, every morning of what's going on in the world of FileMaker. So FileMaker current release is 15.02. 15.02 allows connection to FileMaker Cloud. You have to have at least 15.02 to talk to Cloud. 1502 fixed some critical bugs, but it also apparently exposed or introduced a new bug. And the bug has to do with if you're scripting interactions with a portal. And if you are in a portal and you're scripting the interaction, and you're telling the computer, go to the next related record, go to the next related record, down the portal, literally you're stepping through the portal. It's a little tricky to do, but developers can do this. When you get to the last command, it says exit. If it's the last record, or exit, you can exit a loop doing that. That won't always work reliably in 1502. So that could break some stuff for some customers. I don't know what FileMaker's plans are in fixing this. Clearly, there will probably be a 1503 that will fix this. If you haven't seen the bug, don't worry about it. It's one of those things that there are bugs all the time. There's like, in any given time, there's 100 plus bugs in FileMaker, but they're really normally obscure. So what I do is I tell you about bigger ones. And so don't worry about it, but if you see it, you'll go in the back of your mind and go, aha, Richard told me about that, or I read that somewhere. So it's important to know. So it has to do with manipulating a portal and navigating to the last row. And if you go far enough down a portal, you run to a situation where there are no more related records down below, right? So that's not a list view issue, that is a portal issue. There have been some OS 10 Sierra related bugs. Those were supposedly all fixed in 1502. FileMaker is not planning an update for 14 for Sierra. This is actually off their website. It's not really a secret. People frequently, Apple says, hey, there's a new free operating system, go get it. What people don't understand is it says it's free and you download it for free, but it's like if I gave you a free inkjet printer and then you have to go buy all the ink for it. It's not really free. And that's kind of what these OS updates are all about. The updates are basically ones that will force you to update other software, etc. So keep that in mind, that it's not a free situation, and to be aware of that if you want to install this. Now, that being said, the only bug that I have seen in both in 14 and 15, and it's more of an Apple bug, is where you go to the print dialog and the actual print button is not there. There's a PDF generation button, but not a print button. The answer from other people seems to be is that if they run a recover on the file, this clears the issue. Running recovery is generally something we don't recommend people do unless they have a specific need for that, right? Because running a recovery normally fixes little things. It can be destructive. If it finds a problem in the file, it will start throwing things overboard over the side of the ship to make a good file for you. So there's been cases where you run a recover command and it fixes little things or whatever, or it finds like a layout or set of layouts or a set of records that are somehow corrupted, and it jettisons, it throws them out. You get a new file and that stuff is gone. So it's one of those things that you don't want to try to run a recover unless you have a real need for it. I don't run recovers unless we suspect there is a serious problem, and then we look at the log. I don't know I have a video on that, but we probably should do a video because it's really an interesting skill set to be able to look at the log and see where the problems are at, and then to clear the issue and kind of remediate that. So if you have like objects on layouts can be corrupted, and if a corrupted object is there, it can cause problems. The screen won't display properly. If it goes to a layout, it crashes. If you try to print a certain record, it can, so you can run into some funkiness, and doing a recovery will create a log file. You don't necessarily need the recovered file, but you use the log file to find the little bad pieces, and then you go into the master file and you delete them entirely out and you recreate them. You don't copy and paste them, you recreate them. So that's a little bit of interesting topics there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of Keynote since I dislike it so much. And I'm going to, what we're going to do, we're going to dive into questions. Bridget sent some questions. I'm going to deal with her offline because it would take the entire hour to deal with that. I'm just going to kind of throttle through some of these questions here. I'm going to start with Nathan Schneider. Nathan's got some questions, a couple easy questions, and there's some questions about the iOS app SDK. I don't want to get into that because that's kind of a narrow thing, but Nathan was asking, if I had to name 5 plugins that I absolutely had to have and I must have and I use all the time. In my case, I live a very simple life. I try not to use plugins if I don't have to. If I use plugins, I try to use plugins from a major manufacturer. My first go-to group is 360works. Not because they are perfect people, but if I call them and say that their stuff is broke, they fix it, typically within a couple days. So 360 I like for plugins. If there is a plugin that I have to have and I have to live with, it's the email plugin from 360works. It allows us to send HTML emails out of FileMaker. We install it on a FileMaker server or a FileMaker Copia Pro. This plugin, the normal plugins are Mac Windows plugins. The FileMaker Cloud obviously is not Mac and it's not Windows, it's actually Linux. So the plugins have to be re-updated for that. I know 360 has been working on that. I don't know if they've got this email plugin done for that. Certainly I haven't seen it yet. My guess is that it's not QA'd and ready to go yet. Anyway, so if you ask me what plugins we have to have, that's a good one. In terms of other programs, helper programs for FileMaker that help you do different things, there was an FM Butler application you could look at. That was an interesting one. I don't use that one. The two apps that I prefer to use, mostly what I'm trying to do is chase, like one of you sends me an email and says, this weird TO does this weird stuff and it does this and this and this. And I have to kind of backtrack and see what that TO is connected to. Third-party tools are helpful for that. We've had videos where we talk about this. The two tools that I really use personally are either Base Elements or we use the FM Perspective from Todd Geist. And so the FM Perspective, they're totally different apps. They work differently. They do compete against each other. If you had to only buy one, you'd probably buy the FM Perspective. But if you can get the Base Elements, it's useful as well. They just do things very differently. I like both products, and I like both the guys and both companies that run them. Nick Orr in Australia is Base Elements, really good guy. I can vouch for these people. I can also vouch for Todd Geist, obviously. He's one of the top people in the FileMaker community. So anyway, that's the questions that I had from Nathan. Nathan had some other questions about iOS App SDK. I'm just going to kind of skate around those because it's not a normal question that most people would consider. Ben Moore, is he here? So first question he had, and I answered some of these questions directly with him already, but I'll do them for you, is that if you're in FileMaker, and I can go ahead and come over here and fire up FileMaker starting point. This is the 4.6.8 version right here. If you're in, say, contacts, and you want to add a document, right? And so you can take, like, for example, another FileMaker file and drop it in here and do all that kind of stuff. That works just fine. The issue is that people are in another application, like they're in a browser or they're in an email app, and they want to drag directly out of that app into FileMaker. You can't do that. I know it seems like it should. It makes sense. The file has to be a real file on the desktop or somewhere in a directory somewhere, because when you drag and drop it into here, FileMaker actually goes to the operating system, finds the location, and brings it in here. If you actually have an object that's on a screen, say like it's a picture in a browser and you want to drag it in here, that picture is not necessarily a file on the computer. It could have been loaded purely into memory in the computer. It doesn't really exist as far as the operating system can grab it. The browser knows about it because it was programmed to understand it, but FileMaker has to be able to go and find it somewhere on your hard drive, right? So somewhere it finds it in the hard drive and it copies it in. So that's the rub. You have to intermediate step to do that. And then we got a question here. Okay, so it has to do with print reliability. He's trying to do and attach an email, and this came up in my own company the other day. We're trying to attach an email, attachment to an email and have it send out automatically. Okay, so here's the rub with emails and attachments. Once again, I'm on a Mac. This problem is kind of a universal. Mac has some of its issues, and Windows has some of its issues. Largely, FileMaker is bumping up against limitations with either the operating system or the client software. And so what happens is you can run a command. I'm going to click out of here. I'm going to go to script workspace. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut. If I create a new script here, I'm just going to put send email right here. Okay, so most people don't want the dialogue on. Very rarely that should be on because people don't want another. Every time you press a button, you don't need a confirmation button. Are you sure you'd like to send an email? Click. Are you really, really sure you'd like to send an email? Oh, are you really, really sure that you might send an email? Because, people just want to press a button and it works. The rub is that right here, this is pretty unreliable. Email client is this where it sends it out through the local email application, right? So this is where sending an attachment can be a little dicey. So I recommend that you do an SMTP server. This sends it out direct. This came up probably once in my company yesterday, and yesterday, the day before, some random person on the internet who doesn't want to be named, but has been more, he asked a question about this. I like Ben, good guy. He's been very helpful in terms of asking questions, but he has the same problem. He's trying to send this out right here, and it gets into this thing of attachments. This part right here is kind of sketchy. The attachments make it, sometimes they don't make it. Running it direct to where FileMaker directly talks to the email server is the way to go. This will be different from different organizations. My company uses Gmail, so we have Gmail settings in here. So what ends up happening is that we have settings in a settings document. So if you go and download the Pro 15 files, work files, I know I dragged and dropped this in here. It's called Gmail Setup. These are the settings as of earlier this year for Google Mail. Now, in your own organization, you'll have to talk to your IT person about getting the correct settings. But if you want Gmail and you're going out the internet and you're a small business, these settings are there. Once again, this is if you go into the Pro, let me get rid of workspace here. Don't save. Pro 15. You go in here and you say, I want the work files. You go info and you say, just download these files. I'm just going to do this. And then I have it. There's the work files right here. Let me get rid of that. Open this up. And right here is the Gmail work file. Okay, you see that? So that's the Word document that gives you the settings for all that stuff in there. So once again, this is handy dandy, and because you're a purchase to training, you have access to that file. We keep that file up to date. I added 2 files in there over the last week. I couldn't tell you what they were off the top of my head, but that was one I made sure it was in there. So that is the questions about that. So Mark Miller. Okay, so Mark, you're there. There's once again another generic name on the internet. Mark, you probably feel like we're singling you out, but I can assure you that there's only about 1 billion Mark Millers in the world. So anyway, Mark asked a question. It's a good question about this stuff. And okay, if you have a follow-up last question, you can ask me. So before we get into this, real quickly, turn on your microphone, Margaret. What's the question? So flip your switch.
All right. The question is, can we use information from the company setting page to fill in the SMTP information?
So yeah, so what ends up happening is that in FM Starting Point, if you come into here, into preferences, once again, I use FM Starting Point as a way for you to continue your training after this event's over. If you have the Pro 15 training and Starting Point, you can learn a lot. We actually have the email settings. That's Cloud Mail, not that one. Email. Oh, right here. You could set the system to use the email client, so we script this automatically. The settings are right here. So they're in the preference record. There's one preference record in here. These are text or number fields, whatever they are, text fields. And so those Gmail settings I would copy and paste into here. Okay? And that way, in other places, you can use and leverage them. So that's what the preferences table is all about, and the preferences record is a place for you to store settings, right? Settings like your logo, settings like this, that, and the other thing. How are we doing? Is that good on questions on that one? One more. Okay, go ahead.
Can you elaborate on OR relations?
Let's save that question for a moment. Well, actually, okay, so let me just deal with this. The problem with this is that it's a great event. I love having office hours, but if you've ever been to a professor's office hours, it's a collection of 500 questions that go a million different directions. Instead of me talking about OR relationships, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here into our TRO training, and I'm going to show you. It'd be better for you to watch it because it's actually animated. And I did a really good job, way better job than what I can do here for you. Where's the relationships? Integration, script writing, should be down, calculations, relationships. Okay, here we go. I would go right here, okay? So if you see 1106 or relationship, if you watch this video and you still have a question, email me. But I would go through. We do these videos before we even get to Anchor Buoy. Anchor Buoy is something that we do down here towards the bottom. But up here, we cover all these things like multiple predicates, value lists in a relationship, all that kind of stuff. I really recommend you watch this. You already have the training. Go watch this stuff. It's animated. I mean, I can press it, and I can mute the thing. And, it'll see when we're talking about this, when we're talking about that, we got samples, and then it's animated and all this kind of stuff. So, right, see, we animate it. So it makes a lot of sense. More than what I could do in this. But part of this office hours is for the professor. I guess I'm Professor X from X-Men in my wheelchair, is to guide the students on where to go and find the material. If I've already shot a video, then my time's, it's one of those things. So, all right, so are we good on that one, Margaret? Yes. Okay, great. So, value list. So say we have a classic example of this. So staff database. We have a staff person here. So I'm going to create additional staff people. Tom, Rogers, Dick, Smith, and Sharon, Maple. I don't know. Come up with some random names. There we go. Margs. Carlton. All right, so these are all lists of people here. These are names of people that we have in our staff database. Now, what we can do is we can say that their status is active, and this maybe this employee, subcontractor, employee, subcontractor. There's a bunch of different ways of doing things. I tend to want to do things very simple. So the idea is that if we are here, right? And so we have this one employee, let's just say 2 employees. Okay. I am over here and I'm in an invoice. Say we're going to attach a staff to the invoice. And right here we see, if we say show this could be a pop-up list right here, but we made it a little more robust so it actually pops up here. But say I wanted a pop-up list right here and I only want to show the employees. How would we do that? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this field down here. And the thing is, we got script triggers and things with staff name for now. And what you would probably do is do this with a staff ID, but we'll just keep it basic. Once you understand the concept there of what's going on. And once again, this is a tab panel, so you have to keep the objects inside the tab panel or it freaks out. There we go. So we got staff. This is our other field here. Notice it doesn't have a pop-up. So let's make that a pop-up. But I only want to show employees the easiest, simplest way. Okay, necessarily, and you can have 5 developers that are ninjas tell you 5 different amazing ways of doing this. The simplest way that I would do it would be to simply go over to staff and go into field definitions. So I'm going to go Command-Shift-D, and I'm in field definitions for staff. And I'm going to say staff name if employee. And so all it is a very simple calculation. Create. So we say if, hit return. The test is if what was the name of that field? Do we remember vaguely what the name of that field was called? It was called category. I just like that. Category. All right, so we go back to our calculation. This is ugly. Window mayhem. If the category, there it is right there, equals employee. Very simple stuff here. And then what we do is we take on the value of the name full, right? Name full. I'm using the little shortcuts here. Else, it contains nothing. Okay, so once again, there we go. So we hit OK. And we go back to here and we say save changes, okay. And then we see that we have these 2 values there, right? So pretty straightforward. So we want this field right here. So we already kind of have it, so we need to tap into it. So what we want to do is I'm going to say, actually I need my inspector again. And I'm going to say I want this to be a pop down, I guess menu, we could do that. And we say this is what I needed to see. I need to create the pop down value, okay? And so what we do is we say, create a new one, staff name if employee. Once again, this name up here means nothing. It's so you understand what it is. And you can say, actually that would probably, it's one of the things that you'd have to see. The thing is you create the value list and then the question is, can you recycle it from multiple locations? So the staff, we may need a relationship here to make this work. Now you could type custom values in here, right? Custom value, custom value. The problem is it won't dynamically update, right? So use a define value list. Okay, so we're going to go say that we need the value from staff database. The The rub is that I think it's going to dip this through a relationship, so you have to identify that. This would be, watch me blow this demo in front of everyone. Staff, where's my staff name? Okay, so this is what you want. So once again, it's only going to use these values, include all values, include related values. Let's try include all values and see if this, just for fun, see if this works for us without any modification. If it does, I'll be very happy. It does. Okay, so we didn't really identify a relationship for it to dip through to get it. So, but you can mix that in there. That's the important thing. And that's what was tripping me up. I know that, things they start off simple and they can get exponentially more complicated. We say use values from this field, which is cool. So it's just basically going over there and grabbing, instead of getting it, related values. So if you had like this invoice was somehow related to staff and then it filtered it on top of it, this is where you're a senior developer in Ninja and you really understand Anchor Boo and you understand relationships. You can play with this. Include all values is the one that you folks want, and so it's like ID. For those of you familiar with ID constant, the ID constant and starting point, how we connect everything together. This is like that. FileMaker built like a go get all of them. Without using a relationship, and so that's what it's doing. So very cool. So that answers the question hopefully there. So we have questions about custom values. So Margaret, we have additional questions there on this. If you have questions, Margaret, let me know about that. We're going to push on, but that's how you create custom. You basically have to create in the base table where that data is listed. You basically have to go and create a calculation which takes on the value that you want, right? You could do the same thing if you wanted like active staff versus disabled staff. Say like we're over here in our list and the staff were like, some of them were inactive. You could do this, another calculation says if they're active, take their name. Otherwise it's blank, right? So it's pretty cool that you can drive custom value lists that auto update. Really slick, really slick. I like that a great deal. So we're moving on with additional questions. Margaret, if you have questions on that, let me know. These are questions that were submitted. Thanks to Mike for that. That's a good one. Okay, Mike had a question about counting lines in a portal, and then I'm going to move on to the next set of questions. If I don't answer a specific question that you want, feel free to send it to us. I don't know that we have a video on well, we probably do cover it in a video somewhere, counting lines in a portal, but everywhere, the way I do it, because it's mentally simple. There are, of course, other ways. I can think of other ways of doing this, but mentally simple gymnastics in our relationship and starting point. Okay, don't stare at this and get crazy. I'm just going to back this out a little bit. You see all these boxes everywhere. These are all tables here, right? In every table, there is a calculation field called ID constant. It's a value of 1. That allows every record in this table to talk to every record here, and every record here, and every record here. It's everywhere, okay? You'll see them referenced as ID constant, okay? The fields are in here. If you go into staff and you look down, you will see a field called ID constant. There it is, and it's a 1. And that allows us to do a number of handy things, one of which is actually count the total in a portal. So if I go to, and it's, like I said, if you ask this question to top developers, they'll come up with 5 ways of doing it. Frequently, I try to think of the way that's easy to explain to you. So here we have, I'm going to hide the webinar stuff here. Here we have an invoice. This is really liking data. So we have 1 right here, and if I add a new one, I just I just add a line, and it's like that, and then we're gonna order like 85 of them or something, right? We do that. Then I go back to contacts, and I go, okay, so you see it up here. You see the total up here, but I have a video that talks about how that is built, and that is in the UI design course. If you have the bundle, our pro training bundle, you have access to our user interface design course. We have a video that talks about how these are built up here. I'm going to just basically do a very simple one here and show you how to get that count. What you do is you're going to go into layout mode. We're going to take a look at the relationship right here. TO5M. So once again, down here in the bottom, I don't know if we can even see this. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Probably not. Plus. what's the, whatever. It's TO5M is hanging out right down here. And that corresponds to TO5. So we go down here and we look TO5. Okay, so TO5M is this one right here. I'm just going to move it. I'm not breaking it, I'm just moving it so I can see it. So this is how, once again, the anchor buoy is so awesome, because everything's numbered and we know where to go and see the stuff. So it's ID contact, pretty straightforward. Okay, so I say fine, that's fine. We'll just discard the changes. What I need to do is I need a calculation field down here, a calculation field that gets the total of the related items. So we're in contacts, and we need to get the total of related items from TO5M. So define fields, okay, contacts, total related invoices. Once again, the name doesn't, it's whatever you would understand, okay? I'm going to say it's a calculation. Now, this is not the best way of doing it to make a scalable solution. I'm showing you step one. Step one, okay? Step one is to do this so you understand this. Okay, it's going to be a number field. There is a function called the summary function, okay? It's called sum. And what it allows you to do is identify a related field and total it up. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to TO5M, because we looked and saw that. It's right here, TO5M. So we went up our list, so we're here. I want to summarize. I want to count all those little ones. Remember ID constant? We want to count all those. So we can see 2 records, but each one of those has a 1 in it, in the value. So we just add them together, right? It's so simple. So we go TO5M, and you're like, so we're looking at getting the summary. We're looking through the relationship. So go back to that screenshot. The relationship diagram. We're looking from the left side, the anchor side, to the buoy on the right, and we want to total up the ID constants. Okay, you're like that. Bam. That's it. That is it. So this is the ID constant, and there's the TO5 relationship right there. We hit OK. We hit OK. I can put the field. The field has to be let's grab a field and drag it down here. I don't need one with a trigger on it or something like that. So I'm in, it says I'm in staff. That's not going to work. That was the last place I was at. I'm at TO5. So remember, the layout itself belongs to TO5. The related data here is TO5M. So the anchor is TO5, for those of you struggling with anchor buoy, and TO5M is the related items in this portal. So the calculation is in TO5. TO5 at the top, of course, right? And I say we want the, what was it, number, what was it, Mark? Do you remember what it was? Number related, total related, number related, number of, total related invoices right there. Okay. Now, here it is. So this, right before we see it, it's going to say 2. You pretty much rest assured it's going to say 2, probably, unless I'm an idiot. There we go, 2. It's going through the relationship to total up the ID constants. The ID constants are here. If I just take like this field right here where it says date paid or whatever, and there's a button over the top of it. Okay, the button over the top of it, you have to carefully move it out of the way like that, and then move it back when you're done. Or, better yet, this is locked. I'm going to hold down the controller option key, and I'm going to select an area right here, and everything that's completely within that area will be selected. So that way I can select it while not moving the button. Very handy skill set. And what I do is I tell it to be a different, so I'm an inspector, I want it to be a different field. I want it to be the TO5, it's a relationship, so I want it to be ID constant. So here, ID constant. Browse mode. So there you go. So now it's formatted with $1. Okay, okay. Now welcome to. Why is there $1 a date paid? That shouldn't be $1. That's kind of strange. That might be a bug. You have to might look at that one, Margaret. Make a note of that. It shouldn't have any currency or anything on it in general. Okay. Browse mode. So once again, these are the ones right here, 1 ID constants. These things also connect all the tables together if we want to use that, and then we can total them up, and there we get the 2. Here is the rub with this in terms of scalability, very important. Notice that down here, we could have had this total show up, but we didn't because we ran the button here. We've talked about this. We have videos on scalability I'm going to simply send you that way. So the way I did this is the way you would build a solution if you want 1, 2, 5, 10 people, 20 people, 30 on the outside people working in a solution. This won't work in a wide area network with good performance if you have lots of records and you have lots of people. It doesn't matter how big of a server you buy, it's just going to suck. And because the thing is, every time, here's the deal. Every time I come here, I'm going to go home. Every time I come back to contacts, every time I hit this, it recalculated right now just there. It did this in real time. It didn't do this one. If I change this order and I'm going to say we're going to buy 185 and I change that dollar amount, I go back to contacts, I go to invoices. Notice it updates there, but it doesn't change the title here, the total here. We don't want the calculations to run all the time endlessly. Every time we're here, we come back, it runs again. Oh, we're here, we come back, it runs again. Here, come back, it runs again. How many times do you flip through layouts? You don't want to see the little progress bar going, stand by while we calculate the summary, and it goes really slow. It's like, oh my God, it's so slow. So the idea is that we make this a hidden field. It's there, you can calculate, it's a hidden field, and you put number fields or text fields down here, and then when you press this button, it runs an update that sets those things, so it only updates when we want it to. So notice it didn't rerun. If I press it now, it runs. So what I'm going to do for homework, if you want to pursue this, type the word scale, S-C-A-L, that's probably good enough. How to make scalable databases, and look around this area here. So it's 940. You can play it from right here. The other one is you want to do a search as performance, perform. All right, so yeah, it talks about performance, database optimization, overview. So 940, 941 are good areas to go in and play with this. So anyway, so moving along, you had a question? Go ahead, Margaret, what's your question?
2 questions. One is real quick. If this is recorded, can we get a copy of it?
Yes. The recordings are going to go out to people who are currently on our Pro and annual training, or they somehow have our paid courses. If you've never bought any of our courses before, it might be a good time to spend the $69 and get on our good side. It's funny, I thought you appreciate this. So people download Starting Point, they get our newsletter, and then I got a complaint the other day from a guy. He's like, oh, you're trying to sell me stuff. I'm like, well, that's because you got a $100,000 CRM for free, and it'd be really great if you wanted to contribute $69 or so, or buy the bundle to help fund the operation. So he was offended that he might actually have to pay for something. I thought was kind of funny. So he's probably not here. Anyway, moving along. Next question.
If I have a value list that is displayed as checkboxes, these are main categories. Is there a way to have a portal that shows subcategories once one or more categories are selected?
Yeah, so he's talking about like a progressive selection, right? You can engineer it a couple different ways. I'd have to look at the way the data is being set up, but you're talking about a progressive selection. So where you select, we kind of cover it in the one video. You know, kind of not really. The problem is you're making, based upon what happens, you're trying to, you can do it through the relationships. You saw the relationship thing a little bit ago, where you can drill down and make the relationships more. You could actually create multiple value lists, right? So if I'm going to go ahead and just get that out of the way. The question is about this right here, this value list thing. You can set up multiple value lists. You can set this one up as, you could call it start, right? And then you could have another value list based upon a relationship or something other set of criteria, and that would be maybe value list B and value list C. So you see all the value lists start to show up on here. Then you're going to display that value list, you know, to the person progressively down the page, right? You know, they start with value list 1, then they do value list 2, and then they go through and they do value list 3, etc. You can also hide objects, right? So you could actually, another way of doing it would be to have all the different possibilities on screen, if you knew what they were, and then hide them, because you can do internally engineering. FileMaker calls this POV, for programmatic, as in programming, object visibility. And that's this section right here where you can say hide an object if something happens. So if you want to learn about hiding objects, we hide objects all the time. It's one of the coolest features that was added. I think it was added in 13, I believe. So Mark, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to my team. This is a totally different question. Jason, hi Jason. Jason, we're just going to call Jason from Florida, so you know who you are. It was funny. I sent the requests out send me emails, and I had a couple people with nearly identical names. Two Jasons, and they both started, the last name started with B, but they were different Bs, and I thought it was the same person. I'm like, man, you're asking a lot of questions. So the question is about robots, like R2-D2 and the little round guy that runs around the new movie, Star Wars movie. I'm going to just read Jason's question to you. I have a CRM that has a great deal of summarized data in it. Doesn't really matter. The summarizing takes 12 hours a night after importing and data crunching. So he has a data source that he brings data in, and then it has to process and chew on it, and it's painful. So let's talk about options for making life better, okay? Here's the deal. I'm gonna talk about something, and then I'm gonna tell you not to use it in this case. And what I want to talk about, and just so you understand this, I can type robot in here. This one I know works. So what is a FileMaker robot? Automating robots, server performance. Not this robot. That has to do with FileMaker Cloud. But these right here, 0815 talks about a robot. And if you had a robot, it could do processes for you, basically, that are offline, after the hour, middle of the night kind of thing. You know, the robot's running and it does work for you. Basically, if you have a script that takes a day or whatever to run and operate, you need a separate computer that sits and just runs that script for you, okay? A separate Mac Mini or a separate PC sitting there next to you. We have the ability to process scripts on FileMaker server, okay? I prefer, okay, so one of the things that we like to do is make sure the FileMaker server never crashes or never has a problem. And I ran into a developer the other day that was going, oh yeah, I have one user, and they press one button and it fires up 5 different scripts that are running on FileMaker server. FileMaker server will run scripts for you. It's called PSOS, perform script on server. It's actually a command, okay? And we talk about here it is right here, 0943. I like to use PSOS for little spurts or little squirts or little, for example, in starting point, we have, I can't show you the one that I have in mind. It's a better demo, but it's got live financial data in it. But you press this button, this normally takes, actually, you know, I could log on to, hang on, open remote. Is the one with the big data on it sitting there? I think it is. So this is, you're looking at one of my servers here where I have all our production versions of starting point. You see I have older versions here, and we're starting to kick around the idea of 4.7, but it's like this starting, so no one asked for that. Do not ask for that. That's like Christmas or something. We're just kicking it around. But there's one here with large data in it. I'm going to open this one up. I'm going to open this up. Okay, so what I'm going to notate is that I think there's a lot of invoices and stuff in here. And what I'm going to do is this dashboard is one of those things that doesn't run every time you see it. It only runs when you say update. If I press update right here, it's going to run it almost instantaneously because it told the server to do it for us. It was instantaneous. If I hold the option key down, it's one of the little things in there. It'll force it to run locally on my machine, and you will see my machine sit and beach ball and grind and process. The server did it in 1 second. Because of the network transaction back and forth between the server and the client, okay, just finished. So it's like 15 seconds or whatever it is. So the server can do things for you very fast, okay? If I can run a script on the server and it does it in 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, I'm happy to offload it to the server because we'll save tons of time. So you learn about that under PSOS. However, I don't want to give PSOS a script that's going to take it 12 hours to run, which is what Jason's wrestling with. So the problem is that if you run it for 12 hours, you might crash it. And so the rub becomes one where you need to think about what happens if it crashes. If you build a robot and it runs as a Mac Mini next to you and it crashes, does it negatively affect the server? Right? No, it doesn't. You have to restart it. But if you actually running PSOS for 12 hours and it crashes, it might cause problems on the server itself, or it might make it so that everyone who tries to run this, if they try to run this and PSOS is not available or is not available, it will run it locally slowly. So once again, if you think that you're going to run for hours and hours and hours, run it on a robot. Ideally, the robot would sit right next to the FileMaker server on the same network, like next to each other, so the performance between the two would be the best. If you're using the FileMaker cloud or your database is up in a cloud somewhere, you need another FileMaker client next to that server so the performance is really fast. One of the biggest problems we have is as the performance comes down from the server to the client, there's latency there measured in milliseconds, and that is what causes these scripts to go so slow. The fastest client you can have is one that sits next to the server within the same room or wherever. The PSOS is fine. SASE, which is a script, is where you actually program the FileMaker server to do it for you. It's the same as PSOS. So I'm just going to connect to the server here. Okay, so this is a 15 server. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to log on to this 15 server. And so you can see this is what, so the schedule's right here. So we schedule a schedule. These are backups that run, but we can also create a schedule that runs a FileMaker script. Okay, see that right there? And so we can tell it to run a script on this file and it's using a password. So it runs it on a schedule. PSOS, and this is called SASE because it's activated by a schedule. It's the same scripting machine that runs on the server. So it's good for little short blasts, but I would not want it to run more than, really in an ideal world, if it ran more than 15 or 20 minutes, I would be looking to offload it to a robot. Because remember, as it's running, it's actually taking performance away from the rest of the users who are trying to access FileMaker server because it's doing more work. If you offload the work to the robot, it's slower, but it doesn't necessarily negatively affect other people. So that's what I'd recommend. I want to make sure I answered this question correctly. I kind of beat this to death. The answer is yes. On a 12-hour thing, I would offload it for sure. If you can keep it short and sweet, and it runs quick, like you saw the one ran 1 second, runs a minute, 5 minutes, that's fine. But hours and hours and hours, man. Whew. And the other thing is you can look at the robot and see what it's doing. You cannot look at the FileMaker server and tell you what it's doing. If it's running a script, right? If it's in here running a script, I say activity, I say clients, these are my staff that are logged into the file. It will show up in here as a script that's running, but it doesn't tell you where it's at in the script, what it's doing. You have no visibility. With the robot, you can actually see it was on this part or on this other part, or you can even put a little progress bar that shows you what's going on, right? So there's a lot of things to like about that. So I'm going to call Jason's question good. Yeah, go ahead and question, Margaret.
So, do you have a suggestion that would allow to create a PDF with WebDirect other than using a robot? I found a workaround with pop-ups, but it is not very practical.
Okay, so we're talking about WebDirect and limitations of WebDirect. So WebDirect and FileMaker 15 doesn't really print, and it doesn't really generate PDFs because that's really the print engine. So the answer is that to get the WebDirect to print or to create PDFs, you have to run some sort of hack where it marks a record that needs to be done, and then a robot grabs it and processes it. No, basically, I mean, you're going to need a robot that it's where you check a flag on a record, and then you have a robot that scans it every 5 minutes and sees if it needs to do something, right? And if it does, then it runs and takes action upon it, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, let me say this loosely, is that I would suspect that's a high priority for FileMaker, and I would to some degree expect that potentially to be addressed in a future release of the product. I guess that's all I can say without getting shot. So anyway, PDF and print generation or printing are the number one requests that FileMaker could add features for either WebDirect or FileMaker server. Okay, so that's the number one requested feature. And of course, we all know FileMaker It's funny, I say this, and someone in marketing loses their mind about this, but FileMaker has officially said that they're on an annual release schedule. And the last 2 releases were in May, so when's the next release of the product? Whoever said October, you're not very, very smart. No, May. It's May. So unless something catastrophic happens, they're pretty much on a May launch schedule for releases, okay? That's not a secret. Everyone on the planet knows that, okay? So anyway, of course, then some people at FileMaker act like it's a secret, and it's not remotely a secret. Question.
What is the latest word on FM compatibility with macOS Sierra? What version of FM do we need?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered this, the first slide of the video. For those of you who are trying to download the latest operating system, I would always go slow on downloading operating systems. I have about 50 or 60 Macs in our company. I don't think more than 1 or 2 of them are running Sierra, just because I don't want to be the first guy off a cliff to have the problems with it. You need to be running FileMaker 1502. Officially from FileMaker, the product that they have that supports Sierra is 1502. They are not going to make a special release for 14 because 14 was never engineered in mind with it. Now, that being said, most people are reporting it works just fine. But 1502 is what you want to be using for Sierra. But when Apple or iOS says, oh, you should download this immediately and be the first person to own it, even though it's free, okay? Free is not free. Free is sometimes expensive. So questions we had, so we're gonna kind of already at an hour period here. I'm gonna go this a little bit more and then we'll wrap it up. Standalone versions of FileMaker. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit right here. So there's questions about FileMakers and FLT and licensing and stuff. So here's the short version, and I had a conversation with FileMaker about this yesterday, and they don't seem to, I don't know, in my opinion, quite get it, because I'm the one that talks to the people like yourselves that give me real feedback. That's how I can be grounded in the real world, because I talk to real people, and this is one of those kind of moments. FileMaker sells single copies of FileMaker Pro and Pro Advanced. That's not a problem. FileMaker will sell a copy of Server and it comes with one connection, and you can run that on Mac and Windows. So that's your entry-level point into Server. Because it comes with one connection, you can connect one WebDirect person to it or one Go WebDirect client to it. So basically, it's a base copy of Server, only comes with a single connection. Okay, there's no tiers between 1 and 5. I had this conversation, and I'm trying to help them see the light that there might be some ways of offloading this to coming up with a tier for 2 or 3 people. But basically, FileMaker's entry-level serious position with the FileMaker Server product is 5 users, which basically works out to $888 a year as a suggested retail price for that. Plus, either the cloud server, which you can get into that for about $120 a year. So that means your monthly cost is pretty inexpensive, but it's a fairly low power server. And once again, that's a cloud video. You can talk about that if you're interested in that. Watch the cloud videos. But there's no real positions between 1 and 5. So you have to kind of understand that. So if you want to have 2 or 3 people connected to the FileMaker server simultaneously, and they're using Go or WebDirect, then you have to buy the 5-pack. Now, if you buy the basic server, Mac and Windows server, and then you buy 5 copies of Pro from me, or 4 copies of Pro, or 3 copies of Pro, those are fine, because those don't burn a connection license. If you pay for the client, then you don't burn a connection license. It's really an important concept. I'm going to log into FileMaker Cloud. I'm going to explain this because I know a lot of you have questions about this. All right, so if you have questions about this in terms of the cloud server and everything else, we have videos on that. Please watch them. Margaret, did you post those links into the chat? Okay, great. So here's the important part to understand, is that if you have a copy of FileMaker Pro that you bought, or Pro Advanced, you can connect to a FileMaker server, whether it's cloud server or regular server, and it doesn't burn a connection license. These up here are what they call connection licenses, okay? So this one has a limit of 100. It's a test copy, it doesn't matter, but most people, it'll say 5 or it'll say 10, okay? And then as other people log in, like you have a full copy of Pro or Pro Advanced, like when you buy the license for our annual bundle, you get a full copy of Pro. If you logged on to this, it's not going to burn a connection. It's because you already paid for the client. A connection is a paid spot. But if you've already paid for the client, you don't pay for it twice. You only pay once. Does that make sense? So FileMaker Go, how much did you pay for that? Nothing. You didn't pay anything for it. So therefore, when you connect it to server, it's going to deduct a connection, right? Makes sense? WebDirect, how much did you pay for WebDirect as a user? Nothing. You didn't pay anything for it. It's a browser, right? You didn't pay. So you buy it when you buy the server, and it burns a connection. Now, I say, well, you have, if I look at one of the people here and you bought the annual bundle, well, how much did you pay for your copy of Pro? Well, I don't know, but it was part of a bundle and I did pay for it. Okay, correct. So when you log on to a server, it doesn't burn a connection, right? You've already paid for the copy of Pro or Pro Advanced. So the other day, we had 100 people logged onto this server. And it said like 95 of them or 90 of them were here, which are these regular users, right? Number of people with Pro or Pro Advanced, they're already licensed, right? They're separate from user connections, right? And then I had a handful of people who were playing with it with Go and WebDirect, and so it started to deduct the numbers up here. That makes sense? So that's kind of the licensing question that goes on. FileMaker, the cheapest way to get into FileMaker is on it's very flexible. It's called the FLT license. It's called FileMaker License for Teams. And you can, the starting position on that is a 5-pack. They don't make a 2 or 3-pack. And so that's why I was trying to get FileMaker to kind of see this, that there is value in that, but they're not real excited about creating that tier. So I'm going to keep working on them on that. If you have comments or you would like to see that, or you have thoughts on that, feel free to email me and I can pass that information forward to their management team. At some point, if they get enough feedback, it does move the ship, if that makes sense. So if we get enough feedback and we push them, we can move the ship. But it's like an aircraft carrier. You just can't get out with a rowboat and push the damn thing. It takes a lot of force. You know, it's like moving Apple, only Apple's even worse. So anyway, any additional questions we have there on this? Okay. I want to answer Bruce's question, and we're going to wrap up with this. It's a really good question. It's about duplicating a module in starting point, okay? And so he wants to create an events module in starting point. Now, if this is you, then maybe you need another module in starting point. I highly recommend that if you want to do this, you go to our training here. And once again, I've shot videos on this, and it's like an hour worth of training at least. It's not like 5 minutes. You go to FileMaker specific and down towards the bottom. Okay, so it's video 1702, 1721, 1722, 1723. These have to do with, in our case, we made a PO module, which is a very common request. But we talk about the whole idea of using recycling an existing section as opposed to building a brand new section, right? And so that's what this is all about. So we spent a lot of time. In fact, I did it while I was on vacation this year, which shows you that how dedicated I am to your training, or how crazy I am for working when I should be on vacation. Pick one or the other, or both. Anyway, so I did that while I was on vacation. I shot these 4 videos, and they're quite long, and they have a lot of great content, but they basically walk you through beginning to end of duplicating a module. Now, in the case of Bruce, let's just address this. He wanted to do an events module. A project module, you could recycle it into an events module where you had say we have an event, we're going to have a band, like a wedding. So like say it's a wedding. A single event is a wedding. That could be a project. Table occurrences cannot be copied and pasted. So that's correct. So I'm going to recommend to Bruce, and he had a lot of questions in here. They're all covered in this training. I'm doing you a disservice trying to do this in 3 minutes. But these are all, each of these is like 10, 15, 20 minutes. So this makes up the most of an hour of training here. I highly recommend it because we go through the whole process, and there are limitations to FileMaker. FileMaker is aware of the limitations of the product. I think they need more guidance on what you want to see in terms of licensing and costs, and what the value is, the value benefit to them. So that would be useful. But in terms of the fact that you can't copy and paste these table occurrences from one file to another file, yeah, they're aware of that, and I think at some point they would like to address that. I don't know exactly when that'll be, but it's high on my list of things we're requesting. So we're going to answer the last couple here, and then we're going to wrap this up. This is not the last time we're going to do this. We're going to do this again in the future. Not next week, probably the week after. So go ahead, Morgan.
All right, sort of like a comment on the fact FileMaker Cloud. Does FileMaker realize that Microsoft is now offering access via OneDrive Cloud via the SharePoint app on iOS with 1, 2, 3, or 4 plus connections?
Yeah, so that would be a really good comment. Do they know this? Probably, maybe not. I don't know. Can you write up an email and send it to me and explain this? Understand that this is not a alternate to a hosted FileMaker server. The comment from, we'll call it Kevin. Kevin, actually, you got a lot of good comments, Kevin. Thank you for that. Yeah, he's got a lot of comments. I wish I could see those while I was going, Kevin. I mean, Kevin, reach out to me offline and we'll talk about this. But the short version is that FileMaker Cloud is committed to Amazon AWS. So in case the question comes up, FileMaker is heavily invested in the AWS infrastructure in terms of the way the servers are spun up and spun down. I can tell you there's absolutely no plans to bring any of the cloud capabilities to the Amazon Azure cloud business. That being said, Microsoft sees the value of these small connections, if that's what you're trying to say. FileMaker needs to see that. The thought process is that people who have 2 or 3 probably really have 5 connections. They need 5 legitimately, and they should pay for that. That was their logic. The problem is that there are people who have, and as a number of you, even myself, I'm one person. I have like 4 or 5 Macs and an iPad and whatever, and so I actually prefer to have my stuff up on a FileMaker server so I can get to it anytime. Trying to host it on Dropbox is asking for trouble because Dropbox, the files can get corrupted if you have 2 people trying to open the same file at the same time in Dropbox. You need to actually park this stuff and to protect your database on a FileMaker server. And so Kevin's got a good point that other people are doing lower, smaller tiers like that. FileMaker is not yet, but this cloud offering is a 1.0 thing. It's just the beginning of the cloud, and clearly they have a lot of neat ideas for the cloud of what they want to deliver. They'll deliver them updates. They're saying this pretty officially that you'll see updates probably every 6 months or so from them on the cloud, whereas the regular product line will get updates, annually. Right, so that's kind of where that's not really a secret. They keep babbling about that every time they open their mouths. So with regards to duplicating the module, regards to what are the thoughts of copying the modules into an XML header, rename it, function, and reprove? Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. So the question is it's a very senior, advanced question. Is that everything in FileMaker is largely kind of this XML markup language, and couldn't you take it, copy it out, and then copy it back in? FileMaker doesn't support that right now, okay? That actually is one of the concepts that has been suggested to them by third parties, that idea that they support that, so you could copy modules from database to database using some sort of copy the XML and then paste it, right? That's been a suggestion by like Todd Geis and some other people. It's not a classified suggestion. I just know it's a suggestion to them. I don't know if they're going to do it. It's a good idea. So, yeah, it's like not supported, right? So it's like, okay, so you're doing open heart surgery on yourself, and any event that you slip and have a mistake and you call 911, they're going to go, not our problem. Okay, if you hack a FileMaker file and then you have a problem with a FileMaker file, do not call FileMaker and expect them to have any sympathy for you. Okay, so just understand that. It goes without saying, but I would like to see what you're doing on that. But I know that the idea is for us to be able to take table occurrences and schema and blocks of almost like if I had an estimates module with layouts and code and everything, and be able to take that as XML and copy and paste it. Right now, you can't do that. It doesn't support. It doesn't support. You can copy and paste layout objects that way, but you cannot copy and paste structural, what we call the structure of the database, like the steel beams and stuff underneath that make, if you have a multi-story building, you're walking on beams and structure and stuff, right? And that structure, the field definitions, the relationship diagrams, things like that. And there's limits to what you can copy and paste with scripts. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this office hours, folks. I do greatly appreciate it. If you have questions about what you've seen or heard today, hopefully you check out the Pro Training, 15 training. We're going to try to pick this up again in a couple weeks. Next week, I'm actually doing some training myself over the next 4 or 5 days, and I'll be kind of away, but the rest of the team will be running tech support here at the company and being Very happy to assist you if you have a question. Some of you, I'm going to say this up front, probably need some coaching. You don't necessarily need full development skills, but you need coaching. If you need like basic level coaching, like from a mid-level FileMaker developer, we have a program that allows you to get access to basically a mid-level developer for half off hourly rate, and they provide coaching to you. Half off meaning somewhere less than $75 an hour. And so some of it, just depends on what you need. If you're like Nathan, who has basically a senior engineer attached to him, you can't get senior engineers in the business who are high-end, high-power guys for less than full rates. That's the way that works. But for some of you are like want to duplicate a module, you want to learn about scripting, you want to figure out why the table occurrence is working the way it does, we have coaching available. If you're interested in coaching, you want to know more about coaching, just email support@RC Consulting and say, I hear you have coaching. What do you need? What can you do? And we actually have even a little video about it. So, all right, that's it for today. I greatly appreciate it. And that ends the broadcast. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks.